Hey everyone, King Size Customs here. First things first, we're going to get my dream car, one of them, which is a Dodge Coronet Super B here. Now you're noticing that the thing doesn't make sound from the outside. I'm showing you the lights. We're on a drag strip right now. Wait till we get inside. Now you hear it. This thing is crazy. It's one of my dream cars. If I hadn't mentioned that, you can actually see it's got a clock and the RPM gauge is part of the clock. We hit that doing 1 minute and 6 seconds in this car in fourth gear, and my high speed is around 100. So I just wanted to do that first, and then the second clip of this video will come in. So here's our second clip. I just got out of the car to show you that we're on the Pacific Coast Highway. So we got it. It's my dream car. I'm pretty much trying to not necessarily learn how to drive, but keep the car under control. And Pacific Coast Highway is a hard one to do, as you'll see later. But what I really want to do is I want to talk about kind of the car culture around where I live, because I mentioned in a video yesterday that in Delaware, it's kind of funny. You'll see a little bit of everything. I've seen custom lowriders, I've seen custom donks, I've seen classic cars, Japanese cars from Japan, you know, the 25-year-old imports. So basically for me, it's kind of hard to pick which section of cars that I like. I mean, and it also depends, because I kind of like to say that we're a state that has pretty much two types of states in it. You got your more urban, so your more city states, and then you have your state where it's you have your part where it's a little bit more country. So, you know, you'll see like a lot of diesel trucks the further south you go in the state, and then the more north you see a lot of like luxury cars, a lot of you see a few classic cars. Towards the middle is where you get the healthy mix of like diesel trucks and lifted trucks. You get some classic cars. It also depends on like the car show schedule. It depends on the weather, really. You know, it gets cold. It does snow here, and then it also gets really, really hot. You know, I'm talking you have a couple of days where it got to 100 degrees a few years ago. Mostly in the summer it was staying in, like, I want to say around the 80s, 90s, which is nice. But you see a lot. I saw some Volkswagen Golf imports. They were imported from Germany. I've seen some BMW imports. I've seen I've seen Mercedes-Benzes, I've seen Maseratis. It really just depends. Like, I saw a Lamborghini at my school at University of Delaware. It's also where I saw the Maseratis. It's where I saw the Audis. It's where I saw my first Tesla Model X, the SUV with the gull-wing doors in the rear. But really, for me, being around my grandfather, you know, he saw a lot of cars, being that he was born in the 20s. So, you know, he started trying to drive a 1925 Mercury, I believe it was. And then, you know, he had a 49 Merc, which was the car that he loved, but he always had a thing for the muscle cars. And I guess that's kind of where I got my love for muscle cars. He liked Ford, and I mostly like Dodge, but that's just difference of opinion. So, another thing about this car, I have it set in the game so that it's factory control. So if the car didn't have ABS brakes from the factory, the car doesn't have ABS brakes. If it didn't have traction control from the factory, the car doesn't have traction control. So you'll see, I'm not a great driver, and I kind of do this car a disservice more towards the end, but I do enjoy driving this car. I wish that the audio was better, that it was full audio, but that's what happens when you get mods. The drag strip's original to the game, and the Pacific Coast Highway is actually a modded map, so I'm driving a modded car on a modded map, which is kind of cool. Now, I have a funny relationship with cars. I kind of always saw myself as an old beat-up pickup truck, but because I can never really find a game that lets you drive what I'm looking for accurately. See, I always used to see myself as an old Ram 1500. You know, it's been sitting in your yard for a few years. Body has rust, but the internals, the engine, everything's still all good. So, and what that really meant was I may not be the best looking guy out there, but I'm a real reliable guy. Kind of like that truck when you think about it. But now the reason why I bring that truck up was my dad had one, and then after my dad had one, it was like he couldn't go about 30 yards without seeing, you know, 5 other 95, when the body style had just changed to the big rig styling. You couldn't see any other, you know, you couldn't miss any other 95 big rig style 1500s. It was really popular in the state, and then the Dakota was popular. Now it seems to be the state's leaning more towards Fords around here. I see like about 10 Fords to every Dodge and about 5 Fords to every Chevy. So the municipality, the police departments, the county, because we also have horse units here, the county uses F-150 Super Duties to haul the horse trailers, and it's just, you see a lot of Ford. The funny thing is, though, it just depends what car show you go to around here. And I'm talking pretty much the 2 states between Delaware and Pennsylvania as well. You know, Pennsylvania, you see a lot of Ford. You see a lot of, around here, the last car show I went to, which was actually a couple of days ago, as my phone goes off, really professional. But there were a lot of Chevys. There were a lot of, like, classic cars, too. Like, I'm talking super classic, like, you know, cars from the 30s and 40s. So, and so far I'm doing so good. You know, I'm trying to stay in my lane, and it's the reason why I picked the Pacific Coast Highway is just one of America's most famous roads, and one of America's not really terribly famous cars, but just a car that kind of has a cult following. So I thought, what better combination? And I've always wanted to cruise the Pacific Coast Highway ever since, well, I knew where the Pacific Coast was. It's just beautiful. All the rolling hills, or in this case, I guess you could say rolling mountains. Just a really, you know, I'd want something fun. This is a hardtop version of a convertible, but I'd like to actually take the convertible version and just drive that on Pacific Coast Highway. Now the funny thing is, I've never really seen a Super Bee in the real world at a car show around here. And the funny thing was the 69 Super Bee was actually made in Newark, which is, the factory was about 3 miles away from main campus. It really wasn't that far. So it was like a maybe not 3 miles, but like a 5-minute drive away from where the main meeting point of my campus at school was. There we go. This shows you I've hit some things, so the front's really busted up, minus the windshield, and then I just kind of hit the rear on a guardrail. I think I'm going to do it again in this clip. Well, maybe not. The problem is I have some issues trying to keep the car in its lane, and I also have some issues maintaining speed because I don't really know the speed limit here. I know for part of it says like 40, and I'm doing about 50 on these turns, which, again, weighty car and not a super boosted or responsive steering wheel. So, and you'll see there's parts where I try to throw the steering wheel to the other side, and I fail. But I mean, that part wasn't so bad. So. But yeah, the car culture here's, there we go. There's a 40 mile per hour speed limit, and I'm doing about 50, and I'm considering myself doing pretty good here. But it's just the going back to what I was saying earlier about the car culture here. It's funny, you don't really have a defined car culture. Like LA is known for its lowriders and its luxury cars. Parts of the South are known for their lifted trucks. Here we go. Delaware, it's different. It kind of just, you have a menagerie, to quote not Super Car Garage, but to quote Smooth Criminal. You have a menagerie of car collectors here. You got everything. I mean, I even saw at my last car show a Datsun 240Z in a metallic green, which was, again, not again, but it was the first time I'd ever seen a Datsun 240Z. So, well, in person, I mean, it's one of those cars that I would hope to own one day, but the way things are going with classic cars, it seems like cars from when I was a kid are becoming those classic cars. The 90s pickup trucks are really super hot. Everybody wants a 90s pickup truck anymore to turn into like a show truck. Now I think about it, the only part of car culture that I really haven't seen too much of is mini trucks. And yes, I mean just about every part of car culture you can think of from the 70s, like super disco boogie vans. I've seen quite a few of those rolling around. It's a funny place, car culture wise. So, and we're coming up on the part where I kind of do this car in disservice. I lost my rhythm driving through here, and I'm also, again, going too fast. I should have downshifted in the second to try to keep the speed down. Yeah, see there, we kind of overcook it, and the rear slides out into the opposite lane. I don't know, though. I think for a person who doesn't drive, I do pretty well here. Of course, I'm pretty sure when you go to take driver's ed, they walk you through a lot of things to do and, how to avoid overcooking your wheel. And again, I'm pretty sure a lot of us don't start out with, classic muscle cars. I'm pretty sure here we go. I'm pretty sure we start out with, average, maybe bigger sedans. Well, that's at least how everybody in my family started out. But all right, guys, I try to get back up the hill, but I can't. So that's the end of this. thanks for watching. I hope you don't mind that I kind of went on a stream of consciousness ramble about my state. But, hey, if you guys like the video, I plan on doing a couple more of the Assetto Corsas. I plan on getting different cars and different tracks. I'd like to do a little bit more United States based. I know I do a lot of Japanese cars in Japan. And then one of the things is plan on seeing some American cars, American muscle cars in Japan on the highway. So, all right, later.